Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hope you're having a lovely week thus far. So, today I'm going to share with you a universal law that is going to help you awaken your own inner genius. And I'm going to take you through a 4-step process to really help you embody that law, use it powerfully, and become unstoppable. And it's going to totally shift your life, your business, and how you show up, how you experience your life and your business, and what you're able to do in your life and in your business. This law is the law of polarity. It basically states that everything in the universe and life arises whole. It arises with its opposite. It arises complete. Just like a coin has two sides or a slice of bread has two sides, anything that emerges in this universe has two sides. What that means for you is that if you're stuck, if you're struggling, if you're feeling confused or you're contracted in your nervous system in any kind of way, then the answer you seek, the opportunity you desire, the path forward to the clarity and the expansion that you wish for is also automatically available. It's already in your field. But to see it, you have to look for it. And you potentially have to have new eyes, a new perspective. So today, I'm going to share with you that 4-step process, essentially teaching you how to have new eyes so that you can see the fullness of everything that's available for you and to you. And you're able to essentially, whenever you feel stuck, either internally or tangibly in life, you're able to shift that perspective to see what the invitation, the answer, the path forward is. Another way of saying this is that the law of polarity essentially reminds us that whatever seems to be in your way actually holds the way or points towards the way. So there's never anything in your way. What's in your way usually is your way. So before I get started in really going deep into the law of polarity and giving you that 4-step process so you can become unstoppable, let me introduce myself in case you are new here and you don't know me. Hi, I'm Ilsa. I'm a total spiritual nerd, but I'm also, for the last 18 years, I've been a psychotherapist, an expansion expert, and a strategist for entrepreneurs and leaders. I teach my clients essentially how to rewire their nervous system, their lives, their relationships, their bodies, and their business for more. If you want more expansive growth and easeful receiving in your life, in love, in work, in leadership, in wealth, then you're in the right place. Welcome. And if you want to really succeed without stressing, without second guessing, without spinning, hustling, or sabotaging yourself, and you want to experience this work for yourself, then I have a 90-minute one-on-one with me, Wired for Wealth Intensive, that I offer at 55% off for people who are new to me. And the way you can get this is just to click the link in the description of this training, and it will give you more details and give you my calendar. All right. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to first give you a sense of what the law of polarity is. And I'm going to go in detail so you understand what that means and how it shows up. And then I'm going to take you through these 4 steps. Essentially, there are 4 steps to rewire yourself, to shift who you are so that you can have a new perspective. The law of polarity states, as I mentioned earlier, that everything in the universe essentially emerges whole. Everything has 2 sides. It's complete. And you can't have one without the other. They emerge simultaneously, essentially. So what that means is that when you find yourself in a circumstance, you're experiencing something, its opposite is also always available because they emerge together. The good news is that if what you're experiencing is not nice, if it's not pleasant, if it's not expansive, that means that in your current experience, the opposite of that is already included and it's available if you have the right way of seeing. So up automatically arises with down. You can't have up without down. You can't have left without right. You can't have hot without cold. You can't have stuck or struggling without free. And you can't have constricted, contracted without spacious and expansive. They arise together. They are the two sides of the same coin, two sides of your toast. Where you find one, you find the other. And where you find one, usually, especially if we're talking about the negative, the constriction part, usually the contraction is always an invitation for the other. Here's something, and that's not totally in the law of polarity, but from my perspective, everything wants to exist at its highest level, at its fullness. So when you are in a position where there's a stuckness, there's a contraction, there's a struggle, in that struggle, in that stuckness, in that contraction is an invitation for expansion, an invitation for flow, an invitation for the next level, the fullness, the better side, the wholeness of that experience. Essentially, all opposites exist simultaneously, but just like you can have pain and you can have pleasure. You have a preference. You prefer to have pleasure over pain. Every experience wants to actualize its fullness. So when you're in a stuck place, when you're in a contracted place, that experience points you to the way of its fullness, of its completion, essentially. So when you understand this law and you understand how to use it, you go from essentially being at the mercy of fate to being the master of your fate. Because obstacles cease to be obstacles. They become invitations. They become opportunities for a next level of actualization externally in your life, but also internally in yourself. The poison automatically emerges and exists along with its antidote. This is what happens in nature. When there's a poison, usually the antidote to the poison is either found in the poison itself or it's found really close by in the environment that created the poison. That's the way nature moves. It always emerges whole with every facet, with its opposite. The law of polarity is essentially one of the miracles of life. And it's a miracle that most of us, because of the way our brain and our minds are wired, don't know how to use. When a problem arises, as humans, we tend to not see that their solutions automatically arose alongside them. As humans, unfortunately, most of us, when there's a setback, when there's an obstacle, we literally start focusing on the problem. We start focusing on the setback, and we become our nervous system becomes completely dysregulated. We automatically contracts. We feel like we're attacked. We feel like we're unsafe. We feel like we're stuck. And everything in us shrinks, essentially. Everything closes down. We become fixed. When that happens, when we go like this, we lose the expansion state. We lose access to our own wholeness. And we lose access to our own right brain genius, to our own ability to have to see deeply and to have perspective. At that point, we're stuck in a loop. We can't help but focus and spin around the problem rather than actually putting that on hold and looking for its opposite, looking for the solution, looking for the invitation that arose alongside it. So when your nervous system is in contraction, you essentially lose access, you lose the possibility to find the answers or the opportunities that are actually hidden and emerge in conjunction with the setback, with the problem. And so in contraction, we become fixated by the very thing that is making us feel contracted, essentially getting stuck in this vicious loop. Like the more we focus on the problem, the tighter we get. The tighter we get, the more we're afraid of the problem, the more we're stuck, the more we're spinning and getting fixated by the problem, the smaller we become. And it becomes this vicious loop into absolute contraction, absolute dysregulation, leading us to hide, leading us to be stuck, leading us to have absolutely no clarity on how to move forward. And as we're doing that, essentially we're just focusing on what we don't want rather than searching and being open to experience the solution that automatically arose with the problem. You can't have a problem without a solution. They come together, just like the poison emerges with the antidote, either in the poison itself or right around it in its environment. So when we learn to bring our nervous system back into regulation, we learn to unhook our mind from the problem, to come home to ourselves, to feel safe with ourselves, to start regulating ourselves. The moment we do that, then we start to shift back into expansion. And from the expansive state, we start to have access once again to a wider and higher perspective. We start to have access to our own wholeness. And that wholeness gives us access to the fullness and the entirety of what is happening. It's essentially like taking a plane. Like if you're in a park, all you can see is the grass around you and the trees around you. Now, suddenly, if you hop in a balloon, a hot air balloon, and you start going up, the higher you go, the more access you have to everything that's possible and everything that's around. That's what happens with us. Like your nervous system, expanding the nervous system, first regulating, then expanding the nervous system, is like you, like rising above and having such clear vision that you can see what's possible. And you start to have access to the entire landscape from that higher vantage point. From this expanded sense of being, you start to feel safe. You start to feel open. You start to feel receptive. And suddenly you kind of have access to this new way of seeing, where solutions, answers, opportunities, potentials, but potency becomes visible and available. And that shifts your perspective, because at this point, you're no longer afraid of setbacks. You're no longer afraid of obstacles or problems, because they're no longer setbacks. They're actually opportunities to tweak and to see something different and to go about it a different way. So when you're feeling stuck or anxious or confused, you have to know within yourself, this is always the first step, you have to remember within yourself that the way to freedom, the way to peace, the way to clarity is also available, because they emerge together. If you feel one, the other is available. By the way, the opposite is also true. You could be in freedom and you have one thought and suddenly you're back into contraction or anxiety. We've all experienced that part where we're feeling great, we're vital, we're energized, we feel confident, and suddenly one little thing happened, or we have a random thought and suddenly we're right back here. That's like the reason our energy can plummet like that. It's because both are always here. That's the negative side of the story. The positive is that when you're stuck, the way to freedom is also here. But it starts with us remembering that so that we can start to shift out of being left brain, problem focused thinking into right brain, genius, and solution focused thinking and seeing. So if you don't have enough clients, if you wish you were making more money, if you're sick and tired of social media and the poor reach that you're getting, just know that with this frustration, with this fear, with this annoyance, the solution also comes along. There's a solution here to more than enough clients, more than enough money, more than enough reach and visibility. That solution must already exist. It's just that for most of us, we just get stuck and fixated in one way of seeing rather than opening our perspective. So, as long as our focus is essentially stuck on feeling stuck, like our focus is stuck on the anxiety, stuck on not having enough clients, stuck on our lack of results, then your nervous system is in contraction. And as long as your nervous system is in contraction, it's blocking you from seeing your way forward. It's blocking you from seeing the invitation that is actually here. So here's the thing to remember: you can only see as big as you are. Usually, when I talk about this, I talk about you can only receive as big as you are. Seeing is receiving. When you see a solution, when you see an opportunity, when you see a different way of looking at this, a different way of moving forward, that's a receiving. So you can only receive as big as you are, as big as your nervous system is. And the bigger you get, the more expansive your nervous system becomes. Essentially, the greater your vantage point, the wider, wiser your perspective is, the more you can see, the more in terms of the creative solutions, the opportunities that are actually present. A piece of toast always has two sides, right? You get to decide which side you want to butter. You get to decide if you want to focus and fixate and butter the side that is essentially stuck and contracted and is focused on the problem, or if you want to butter the side that's going to nourish you, that's going to make you feel expansive, that's going to give you solution. You must decide that the solution is here, waiting for you to calibrate your nervous system to its frequency so that you can actually see it. You can't see what you're not calibrated to. You can't see what you're not in resonance with. If you are calibrated and in resonance with problems, problems is what you see. If you are calibrated and in resonance with opportunities, invitations, possibilities, solutions, those are what you see. So as we shift our nervous system towards expansion, towards solution focused, right brain genius thinking, something fundamental starts to change within us. Like our identity starts to be anchored in spaciousness and in expansion. And as something changes within us, literally, it's like the reality we inhabit starts to change along with us. And I've had the experience of literally the moment like I let go of a problem, I decided it's not a problem. I came home to me. I regulated my nervous system. I did my work to step into expansion, to essentially anchor my identity in expansion. Literally, ideas and opportunities showed up that I would swear were not available to me half an hour before. That's the power of doing this. As you change, as you shift, your reality to some degree shifts. And that's mainly because you're looking at something different. Like, who was the person who said when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change? Oh, famous guy. I did not come up with that. The name will come back to me. Oh, now it's going to haunt me. As When you change the way you look at things, what you look at change. Famous guy, died not that long ago. Master said that, and there's some real truth to that. And the way you change, the way you look at things is by expanding yourself, by expanding and rewiring your nervous system. So the more your nervous system repairs itself, rewires itself for expansion, the easier it becomes to expand your perspective, to shift from problems to infinite possibilities. Essentially, the more you expand your nervous system, the more you anchor your identity in expansion, the more you have new eyes. You're literally a different person. So you're seeing through new eyes, and you actually are able to receive the pathway forward and the results you desire with a lot more ease, a lot more joy, and a lot more peace. Just like the antidote is always in or just around the poison, what you need to thrive, what you need to create the success you desire, to create the quantum leap you want in your life or in your business is available now. And what we're going to play around with today with these 4 steps is teaching you to let go of the problem, which is keeping you in a contracted reality, in a contracted experience, and start to shift into expansion so that you can start to see all the solutions and all the invitations that are available. Sometimes those invitations, those solutions are tangible. And there's something like literally you'll get like, oh, I'm going to do this different. I'm going to take that action, like very clear. And then sometimes the invitation, the solution is less tangible, intangible. It's like a mindset shift. It's a new way of looking at a circumstance, a new way of experiencing yourself that essentially shift your beliefs and frees you up to show up in a different way. I'm going to give you an example of that. At the end of 2022, I was doing this work with myself. And I was doing a lot of this work so that I could have a totally different experience in my business in 2023. So it was partially like a New Year's resolution type of work, but like just visioning the year to come, figuring out who I needed to be, how to expand myself so I could have an expanded vision, an expanded way of seeing, and an expanded reality, an expanded experience for the year to come. And what I got from the work I was doing at this time, the invitation that I saw was completely intangible. And this is along the line of what I got. I was essentially given the message, I got clearly that I needed to keep showing up as if the short-term results don't matter. Keep showing up as if the results don't matter. Trust. Like my big work for 2023 was trust. Keep showing up, keep doing the work. Don't look at any of the results and just trust. Trust that whomever needs to see whatever you're creating will see it. Whoever needs this message will hear it. And trust that when they are ready to work with you, they will essentially book a call and start working with you. Forget the short-term results. Just keep showing up as if the results don't matter. And it took a little work. It was intangible. Like, how the hell do I do that? That's easier said than done, right? But that's been my work for this entire year. And in 2023, my business basically doubled with half the effort and half the angst. Because anytime I catch myself looking at being like, oh, only this many people saw my live. Oh, my reach is terrible. Oh, this isn't moving fast enough. Oh, no one, like not that many people open my email. Whenever my mind goes back to the problem, I remind myself of the solution. I remind myself to come back into trust, into expansion. I do my own work to come out of that contracted, very fixated on the problem thinking and reopen, become receptive. Here's the thing too. When we're anchored in the problem, nothing can flow. No information, no wisdom, but also no results. When we bring ourselves back into a sense of expansion, clarity can come up, confidence can come up, the way forward, opportunities can flow in, but the results also can start to flow in. It's just like your hand. If I'm trying to give you money and your hand is closed, how much money is going to stay in? But if you're open and I put $100 bill in there, it will stay in there. So that's our big work, is to open, because everything emerges and comes to us when we are in that place of expansion, from the clarity of what we need to do to the results from taking the actions we know to take. So the work is about expanding the entire neurocircuitry of who you are being, so that you can essentially have access to more, both in terms of your perception and the results you create. So now let me take you through these 4 simple, like 4-step process to teach you how to move beyond your conditioning, to teach you how to step away from that really problem-focused, contracted thinking and feeling to expanded opportunity, possibilities, right brain genius, essentially. So the first step I've already mentioned, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. But step 1 to essentially embodying the law of polarity, that everything emerges whole and everything wants to experience the fullness of its potential, actualize the fullness of its potential. The first step to really embodying that is that you have to remember, you have to become aware, and you have to believe that everything emerges with its opposite, that everything emerges whole, that everything emerges in its completeness. And you have to decide that if you're stuck in a problem, that means a solution is also here. What you desire is not only possible, it's already accessible in your current experience, not in the future, not if in your current experience. You just have to become the version of you who has the eyes to see it. The only reason you can't see it is because you're not quite calibrated for it. You're calibrated to see the problem. You're not calibrated to see the solution. So your nervous system is not calibrated. But that's always the first step. You have to remember, oh, if I'm stuck in this problem, that means the solution's here. If there's a poison, that means the antidote is here. That's the way the universe works. So that's for the first step, because the moment you decide that the solution must be here, you start to rewire your brain. You start to rewire your nervous system. You start to shift automatically out of problem-focused thinking into right brain genius solution-focused thinking. It's automatic. It's a decision you make. Oh, the solution's here. The moment you say that, the problem shrinks all by itself without anything having to change. So that's number 1. You must remember and you must decide that if you have a problem, if you have a struggle, if you have a setback, there's an invitation, there's a solution, there's an opportunity that's right here in your experience, and you just have to have the right eyes for it. Number 2, once you've decided, the next step, and this is so fundamental to the work I do. Number 2, the next step is always come back into safety. Here's the thing, contraction of your nervous system is usually a lack of safety. Contraction of your ability to see solutions usually is a lack of safety. When we are in survival mode, we cannot thrive. We cannot think ourselves out of a paper bag. We cannot see with any kind of spaciousness because we're that small. So the speed at which you can access the solution to any problem is the speed of safety. The speed at which you can access a solution to any of your problem is the speed at which you can reclaim your sense of safety. When you know how to hold yourself, to soothe yourself, to regulate your nervous system, to move, like literally hold yourself through any problem, you know how to get centered, you know how to bring your nervous system into regulation. you automatically start to expand. Safety is literally the doorway to expansion. So you must come back into regulation and start to expand your nervous system so that you can start to calibrate yourself for the outcome, the reality, the solution you desire, the results you desire. And when you start doing that, when you start feeling safe and you start to reopen, you start to expand, that's when you start to see opportunities. That's when you start to see that the answer was right there, was hiding in plain sight. You just couldn't see it. This is the secret to quantum leaps that no one talks about. Quantum leaps are always created in your zone of safety and in the art and the practice of finding your safe ground as you expand. Essentially, staying in safety, staying in regulation as you expand, as your results expand, as your business expands. Because the moment that your nervous system feels like something's expanding beyond your zone of safety, it will have what I call an oh shit moment. Oh shit, this is too much. This is too big. I can't be this visible. I can't ask for that much money. I can't let somebody pay me this much. I can't have this many clients come in all at once. The moment your nervous system starts to step out of your zone of safety, it will contract again. And that's where you start seeing the seesaws in business with people. Like they have a massive growth month and then they crumble. And they have a massive positive thing that happened and then they can't make a sale. Like that seesaw is literally the nervous system expanding, then getting like essentially getting triggered, getting overwhelmed, and then contracting back. So anchoring your zone of safety and literally expanding your zone of safety so you feel safe with more and more and more is the secret to quantum leaps, is the secret to sustainable and satisfying quantum leaps. Because you can have a quantum leap. Like you go from, making $7,000, $8,000 a month, and suddenly you have this huge month and you brought in 25 grand. That's a quantum leap. You can totally do that. But if your nervous system has an oh shit moment, everything starts to crumble. Other clients leave. The thing you thought was a sure thing, like goes away. Suddenly your car breaks down and needs $3,000 of work. Like that's your nervous system bringing you back into that comfort zone, that safe zone. So safety, which is step number 2, is always the second step after deciding that the solution is here. You won't be able to see the solution if you don't learn to essentially regulate yourself and start to feel safe being who you are, where you are, as you are, and in life, in the moment as it is. You cannot create the future of your dream as long as you are at war or in resistance or afraid of the present. You must first come back to safety and peace with what is, with this moment. And then you start to expand and you start to see how to create the future you desire. So this is where I always start with my clients. I always start with regulating the nervous system and teaching them how to feel safe in this moment, how to feel safe with themselves, how to feel safe in their body, how to feel safe with where they're at right now in their life, in their business, with the results they're creating, and learning to really soothe and hold their nervous system so that they can come back from here, contraction, closed, fixed, frozen, to open, relaxed, receptive, walking in trust. And it's only then we can start to come into expansion and start to tap into what's possible for ourselves and start to move and operate from possibilities rather than problems. And literally, like, there's a shift that happens when you do that, where you're no longer like putting out fires, you're literally in flow. So that's the secret to creating sustainable and deeply satisfying quantum leaps. Your nervous system is programmed to go into contraction the moment something feels too big or feels unknown. And so we want to just start expanding that zone of comfort, that zone of safety, and really teach ourselves to anchor in safety and to stay in safety as we expand. So more visibility, more freedom, more ease, more clients, more pleasure, more money, more spaciousness. None of that triggers you because your nervous system is literally learning to stay safe with more. You're literally rewiring yourself for more and calibrating your nervous system for more. All right. So step one, you decide, oh yeah, if I have a problem, the solution is also here. They emerge together. Step two, you come back into safety. You figure out, okay, what is it that I need right now to feel safe? And by the way, you could literally ask that. Like, obviously, I have a whole process that I teach clients, but like putting your hands on yourself and literally saying, okay, what is it this body need? What is it that the parts of me that are triggered by this, the parts of me that are afraid, what do they need right now to start coming back into safety? Breathing, holding yourself, going for a walk, like all of those things are ways that you can start to literally regulate your nervous system and start to come back into safety. And if you want to know more in that 90-minute intensive one-on-one with me, my Wired for Wealth intensive, I literally teach you my hatching process. And the entire first 3/4 of the hatching process is literally teaching you my proprietary process that's proven and super powerful. And it literally teaches you how to come back into safety, how to come back in regulation, how to come back in relaxation and trust and openness so that you can then shift into expansion. So I actually take you step by step through this process in that Wired for Wealth intensive. And if you want to book that, it's $149. It's 55% off. One-on-one with me for 90 minutes plus. Just click on the link in the description of this video, and let's do some deep work. All right, so that's two. First, you decide. Two, you find your safety and you anchor in safety. Three, once you're safe, once you've decided that a solution is here, in three, you actually actively start to shift your perspective and you start to look for what you want, the solution. You start to seek and be in the knowing, the absolute certainty that what you're looking for, the answer, the solution, the opportunity, the way forward is already here. And you're literally sending the signal to your brain, okay, what is it? Where is it? What's possible here? And you are literally rewiring your brain to be actively looking for the solution rather than staying stuck in the problem. You're telling your brain literally the problem doesn't matter. The problem is here. It's only as a reminder that the solution is also here. I'm focusing on the solution. Brain, find it. And literally, like when I'm in this place, I will go to bed sometime and I will say, okay, I need a solution. I need the way forward to counteract this, or like, what's my way forward with all of this setback or whatever, all this shit. And there's been plenty of time where I have a dream that gives me the solution, or I wake up the next day and I have an idea, or I have a conversation with someone and the idea pops up and I pay attention to it and I literally see it as the answer that I was looking for. Or an opportunity arise. Sometimes, and this is the tricky bit, sometimes when you decide the problem's not a problem, there's a solution here, the problem just disappears and the setback or the struggle that you're encountering just dissolves. And you don't even have to look for a solution. It just goes away. So when you're doing that, when you're literally saying, hey, find a solution, it's here, what you're doing in your brain is you're activating what they call the reticular activation system. And that part of your brain, the reticular activation system, is essentially the filter of your brain. It starts to look for what's important to you, and it starts to filter out information that's not important to you. And so what that will do, it'll start to look like what you're aware of is a very small sliver of what's available. And so when you start to tell your brain there's a solution to this problem and it's right around the corner, it's here already, I just can't see it, look for it. What it does is it starts to filter out problems and it starts to look for solution. Just like when you decide you're going to buy a new, I don't know, red Subaru. I'm in Colorado. Everybody's got Subarus. When you decide you're going to buy new red Subarus, you start seeing everybody drive red Subarus. It's not that they weren't there before. Your brain was just filtering it out because you weren't interested. It wasn't important. The moment you tell your brain something's important, you're looking for that, it will start to look for it. So you go to bed asking for the solution. You wake up focusing on the solution. You journal about a solution. You pay attention, listen, like become receptive. Part of that expansion state and that expanded nervous system is you become receptive, you become open to new experiences, to new things. And at some point, something will come up. So that's one way of doing this third step. I'm going to give you another way of doing this, which is a way that I do a lot with my clients. One, because it's super fun, and two, because for me, it is the height of any kind of expansion work you're going to do. Another way of shifting your perspective to look and see and claim solutions is to literally become a next level version of yourself, a future version of you that has already worked through this issue, that has already moved through this setback or this struggle. And because of that, this version of you, they know the answer. And it's a way of starting to shift where you realize that the knowing is already here. So not only is the solution already here, but the knowing of where the solution is and how to access it and how to move through and past this is already here. As you expand your nervous system, you automatically expand your identity and you start to anchor your identity in expansion itself. You start to literally become a bigger version of you. As you expand your identity, you also expand your field of consciousness. You expand your perspective. You essentially, as you expand your consciousness, you expand what's possible for you. So if you know that the solution is here, that the answer is here, but you can't see it yet, then all you have to do is you must become the version of you who can. And so I have an entire process. I have a lot of expansion hacks in my program. I have, not only do I work one-on-one with people, but I have like different weekly expansion hacks. And there's a kind of expansion hack I usually will do 2 a month. That's all about like becoming one, being in direct contact with your expanded self, with your future self, and starting to see things from the end, from a place of already whole, already worthy, already wealthy, already free, completely safe. And so here's something you can do to get you started with this. When you're experiencing a setback or a struggle, I want to invite you to journal and to essentially ask yourself something like this. And you can imagine it, you can feel it in your body, because really expansion work, nervous system work is embodiment work. Money work is embodiment work. It's not just about your mindset. You have to feel it to become it. So as you've got your problems, it's there. You might even put the problem at the top of a page. And then underneath, I want you to ask yourself this question. What would a version of me who is already successful and feels deeply safe, deeply whole, deeply worthy and free have to say about this circumstance, this problem? What might it tell me to do differently? What might it tell me to think differently? What higher perspective might they have that I don't have access to yet? You know how, like, when we're visiting with a friends or even with our clients, we always have great ideas and we see clearly what's happening for them, but we can't always see that clearly for us. That's what's happening here. Like, I'm inviting you to essentially step into a higher version of yourself that's less attached to the problem than you currently are, so that you can see from a greater vantage point, a higher vantage point. I'm literally, through this question, inviting you to step in that hot air balloon and just rise up and look at it with a lot more spaciousness. So let me tell you the question again, and you can rewrite it for your own way, right? But you look at the problem and then you ask yourself, what would a version of me who's already successful, who's done this, who already feels safe, who has absolute trust, who feels whole, who feels worthy, who feels free now, what would that version have to say about what's going on? What might they invite me to look at and see differently? What would they tell me to do differently? What perspective do they have about this problem? And you start to feel the answer, not just like feel the answer, write it down, sense it, and then you move with it. Then you start to live it. You start to live the frequency. So when you start to anchor and become and start to think like the version of you who's already achieved and actualized everything you want in your life and in your business, you are literally starting to calibrate your nervous system to the frequency, the results, the solutions that you desire. You're becoming a match for the reality and the desire that you and the result that you desire. That's why I tell you, feel it. Feel the answer. Feel yourself becoming that. Feel yourself rising above. It's not just in thoughts, it's also in body. Like, feel yourself. Oh, what would a person, a version of me who felt deeply safe in her life and in her business, who felt truly accomplished, who knew that everything's going to work out for her because it's already worked out for her. How would she feel? How would she think? How would she be? Once you can kind of feel that, then you look at your circumstance and you kind of answer and find your own solution from that perspective. It's essentially, it's like as you're becoming a match for the results you want, you're like turning the dial on a radio station until you fall on the right channel. What you seek is here, waiting for you to essentially calibrate your whole neural circuitry, your whole body to it so that you can sense it, you can see it, you can create it, you can do it, and you can receive it. So that's step 3. Step 3, you tell your brain to look for it. You go to bed looking for the solution. You wake up looking for the solution. And you essentially train your brain to step away from the problem and to look for the thing that arose with the problem, the solution. The other part of step 3 is you learn to look at the problem from your higher self, from a version of you who is already successful, who feels deeply safe, deeply worthy, and has already actualized everything you want to actualize. So they know the answer because they've been there, done that. And you look back and you get creative from that more expansive, essentially, state of being. And step 4, which is super simple, is you take action. So step 1 is you decide the solution is here. Step 2, you come back into safety. You come back into relaxation and regulation. You really anchor in your zone of safety so that there's nothing in you that's like this. Everything in you starts to feel like that. Okay, I'm going to be okay. It's all good. I've got me. The solution's going to be here. We're going to figure it out together. Just come back into a sense of openness, leaning back, being receptive. Step 3 is you actively look for the solution. You actively look for that higher perspective, and you put yourself in a place to have access and to see through new eyes. And step four, once you've seen through new eyes, once you've seen a solution, you take action. When you expand and recalibrate your nervous system and you train your brain and you embody that version of you who sees clearly what the answer could be, then your next step is you got to move forward and you got to start acting what you're seeing. And by the way, just because you see a solution, you see an opportunity, or there's something that presents itself to you, doesn't mean that that solution, that invitation won't be scary or that it won't be a stretch, which is why that zone of safety is so important. Like knowing how to anchor yourself into safety over and over and over so that you can start to expand, you can start to stretch while staying safe. But when you see the solution, you will get a sense in your gut, a rightness. It doesn't always feel good, but it feels right. You will know it in here that this is my answer. This is what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes it doesn't make sense and sometimes it doesn't feel good. I will tell you that lives were that for me. When I started going live a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I had like almost panic attacks. Like it felt like being that visible, putting myself out there in that way, like I would beat up on myself. What am I doing? I have a face for radio. No one's going to want to look at me for 45 minutes when I'm talking. And like I had all this head shit. I felt small. I felt contracted. I felt unsafe. I had to do all my work to be able to do this. Today, honestly, right at the beginning, like right now I'm in my flow. If you re-listen to the beginning, like the first 3-4 minutes, there's still a little bit of like, ooh, like it's not all flowing. I feel it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't by looking at it. I feel it. Now it's all gone. Like I had to stretch going live, doing these trainings, like weekly, 3 times a month, felt really right to me. It did not feel good. And I had to work on being an expansion, on literally letting my expanded self, my higher self lead, and letting her show up on these lives rather than the scared young one in me that thought she was going to be criticized and judged and rejected and all of that stuff. So you will see the solution. There will be opportunities, but they're not always easy. They're not always amazing. Sometimes they're scary. Sometimes there's a stretch, but they will feel right. And at which point, then it's in your hands. When the solution comes to you, the invitation shows itself. You have to say yes. You have to literally become a yes person. And you have to stay within your zone of safety, keep regulating yourself, keep coming back into nervous system expansion as you keep saying yes. Your job is to essentially stay both expanded and regulated in your expansion as you move forward. If you don't stay safe, regulated, and stay in your expanded, what happens is that you will sabotage the solution. You will sabotage the opportunity. You will doubt it. You will second guess it. You will become contracted. You will get caught up in shiny objects and do something different. And you will literally stifle, block your ability to take action and to take action from a place of power, from a place of being deeply anchored in trust. Remember that your nervous system's number job is to keep you nice and safe in what you're used to. Your nervous system is not about expansion. It's about things staying the same. So the moment you go and do something different, you get bigger results. If you don't know how to keep your nervous system regulated as you expand, you'll go right back into this and you'll sabotage the whole process. Quantum leaps are a leap of faith. Hence, we need to stay safe as we leap. Faith is essentially teaching your nervous system to stay safe. Trust is teaching your nervous system to stay safe. Fear and freedom are always the two sides of that slice of bread that I was talking about. Or another common metaphor is the two wolves in the Native American story. You have to decide which side you're going to butter, which side you're going to focus on, which wolf you're going to nourish. Are you going to nourish fear? Or are you going to nourish freedom? You can't have both, but you can't have one without the other. They emerge together. All right. I'm going to give you one last universal truth that I abide by that goes with this one. What you desire is your destiny. You cannot conceive of something, you cannot want it if it's not already possible for you. So I'm 4'8", 4'9" on a good day with the right shoes. I've never desired to play basketball. It's not in me, or football. I weigh like 85 or 89 pounds. Never been interested in playing football. No desire whatsoever. It's not for me. If you desire something, then that outcome must automatically be available for you and to you. And the path there must also be available to you, or you wouldn't want it. You just have to get in resonance and calibrate your nervous system to the results, to the reality you desire, so that you can see it, you can create it, you can receive it, and you can hold it with ease and with joy. When you learn to stay regulated, to stay relaxed, to stay open, to stay receptive, as you start to expand, the path is always revealed. The path to the results you want is always revealed. This is why I consider nervous system expansion work to be primary, to be a foundation to growing a business, to creating amazing results, to achieving your goals, to actualizing the purpose that you were born to actualize, to experience. And it's the only way to do that, to scale, to expand, to grow, not only successfully, but also sustainably and with simplicity, and in a way that's going to be deeply satisfying and nourishing to all of you. Not just your bank account, although that too, but all of you. So that's what I have for you today. If you know that you're ready to expand, you're ready to get out of your own way, to step out of contraction, then I want to invite you to join me on a journey of quantum expansion in partnership with your nervous system. Let's just have one session together and make some serious magic happen. For people who are new to me, I offer this one-off 90-minute Wired for Wealth intensive at 55% off. It's $149. In this intensive, we essentially explore and figure out exactly what are the nervous system wounds that are blocking you and holding you back. And then I literally take you step by step through my proven proprietary hatching process that essentially teaches you how to bring yourself out of that contraction back into expansion in every area of your life and business, so that you can receive more with a lot more ease. And this hatching process is something I don't teach on video. It's only something I teach face-to-face with people, and I walk them through it. So together, we're going to unlock the power of your nervous system and your brain. We're going to train you how to bring about a whole new experience of creating, receiving, having more in your life, in your business, in your leadership, in your wealth, in a way that feels amazing to you and is sustainable long term. And then if you want to continue working with me, I'll give you a couple options to fit your goals and fit your budget. So if you're ready, just click the link in the description of this video. And here's the last thing I'll leave you with. I want you to remember that you have everything you need to succeed already inside of you. You are the most powerful force in your life, and your nervous system is the path to not only heal your past, but it's also the key to unlocking your potential and creating the future that is possible for you. And I would love to be one of your guides on this journey to expansion. All right, that's what I have. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Sending you lots of love.